I'm Jim Kircher. Last summer, leading up to and during the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, there was all kinds of news coverage about the Zika virus. And since, well, not so much, at least not in these parts. But Zika is not just another disease of the week. The mosquito-borne virus is still a major health concern, especially in southern states, Puerto Rico, Central and South America, and it's spreading in Asia. And a vaccine? Well, it's in the works. And for that story, we don't have to leave home. Rachel Bradshaw first came here to get a shot she didn't need, and now she comes back periodically to see if the shot she didn't need is doing anything to her. She volunteered for this, signed up to be a test subject in a St. Louis University trial of a possible vaccine against the Zika virus.
I will get vaccinated twice. Actually, I got my second vaccine yesterday, and then they just kind of monitor, my vitals, make sure that I'm not having any kind of adverse reaction. I have to kind of keep an eye on my temperature every night for the first week or so after I get my vaccine, and basically just kind of report if I have anything unusual, headache, fever, chills, that kind of thing. So
Anything yet?
Nothing yet. No,
Okay.
Just normal. Nothing bad at all.
We'll get back to why somebody, or at least why she, would want to be one of the people in this clinical trial that's being run out of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research.
Good afternoon, Rachel. How are
Hi.
you doing today?
Good. Nice to meet you.
SLU's part of the study is overseen by Dr. Sarah George.
Okay. Any problems at all since we saw you last?
Nope.
Okay.
Rachel gets a checkup and has her blood drawn, and it's immediately taken up to a laboratory. The centrifuge separates the solid blood cells from the liquid blood serum, and that is sent to Walter Reed for testing. Rachel might be part of a control group getting a placebo, or she might be getting the vaccine, an inactivated form of the Zika virus. If it works, it wouldn't make you sick, but it would build defenses, and that's what will show up in the blood.
Well, for example, what you look for with Zika is you're looking for what are called neutralizing antibodies. So in a test tube, they take that human serum, they mix it with Zika virus grown in the lab, and then they want to see if that antibody, that serum, can prevent the Zika virus from growing in cell culture. If it can, then those are neutralizing antibodies, and that's good. Those are antibodies that might be able to protect you against Zika.
Zika is a mosquito-spread virus that started in Africa, where people are exposed to it early and develop immunities as children. But it spread around the world, and we began to hear about it only recently in South and Central America, where the adult populations are being exposed for the first time. And if a pregnant woman gets bitten by an infected mosquito, she doesn't get that sick, but the virus can be passed to her developing baby, causing birth defects including microcephaly, which inhibits normal development of the brain and the head. And Rachel Bradshaw wants to do what she can to prevent that.
Partly because I work with families who have babies with birth defects, and unfortunately so many birth defects are not preventable, so it's rare that we find the opportunity to prevent birth defects. And knowing what we know about how Zika can affect pregnant women and affect their babies, I was really interested in trying to help them find a good vaccine to try to prevent those birth defects.
The advantage for the researchers is that Zika is a flavivirus, a kind of virus they're familiar with. And it's not like the flu, which is caused by multiple and often mutating strains. Zika is not a moving target. I don't know if it's fair to ask a scientist if they're hopeful about a particular drug, but once again, I'll ask, are you hopeful that this is a pretty good vaccine, or is it just too early to say?
Well, you never know till you get the data in, but yes, we're hopeful because this one uses the same techniques that we use successfully against other flaviviruses, other viruses related to Zika, like the Japanese encephalitis vaccine, for example.
And the search for an effective virus is moving about as fast as these things go. St. Louis is just one of the test sites.
Here in St. Louis, we're looking only at people who have never had Zika or any kind of related virus infection, what's called a flavivirus infection.
In Puerto Rico, test subjects have had some kind of related viral infection. Walter Reed subjects have previously gotten a similar vaccine, say for Japanese encephalitis. And Harvard's Beth Israel Hospital is varying the timing of administering the vaccine. If the test vaccine is doing what it's supposed to do, Phase 2 will involve a lot more test subjects, and then Phase 3 will be conducted in Central and South America.
And see if it actually protects people. I was just at an NIH Zika vaccine meeting these past 2 days. Their goal is actually to have a vaccine that is licensed and available for use in 2020. Seems years off, and it is.
But that's still pretty fast for this sort of thing, isn't it?
That's very fast, and they're even hoping that they could have a vaccine available if there was an emergency as early as next year.
Fighting the Zika virus takes money, commitment, research, scientists like Dr. George who know a lot about viruses. But at some point, it takes real human beings to test the vaccine.
Well, let's see. You know that your next appointment is coming up when exactly?
Next Wednesday.
In these kinds of clinical trials, volunteers do get paid. The amount varies. They have to fit a profile. They have to show up, maybe for a year. And of course, they have to be willing to get an injection without knowing what it's going to do.
Well, there always has to be a set of first human beings who are willing to try it. And I believe generally in the safety of vaccines and certainly believe in the science behind them. So it wasn't really a difficult decision.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you.
I guess.